Hello everyone and welcome to this presentation. We're really excited to be here in the Esri GeoDesign Summit 2021. We'd like to thank Esri for their invitation. Today, the topic of our presentation will be about leveraging GeoBIM for smarter health and safety in construction. I am George Floros. I am the GIS lead for Skanska UK infrastructure, and I will be co-presenting today with Anita Soni.
Thanks, George. Hi, everyone. I'm Anita Soni. I'm the Senior BIM Manager working for Skanska Infrastructure. So just to go over the agenda for today, we'll first look at the motivation and health and safety in construction and very much about digital transformation and requirement for that. I'll briefly go over the regulations in the UK associated with health and safety, roles and responsibilities, and then look at the challenges within digital and health and safety in construction. George will then go on to look at the role of digital, look at GIS and BIM, and look at the integration aspects, as well as a proof of concept and a case study. And then he'll finish off with discussion and future work. So firstly, looking at the motivation. So health and safety in construction, it's the biggest aspect personally within construction. It's about protecting the workers, reducing accidents, and eliminating risks of injury and death. Particularly within the UK, with the regulations that I'll discuss shortly, any breaches can result in fines and legal action and also prison. So the figures on the right here show figures from breaches from 2019. So you can see it's taken very seriously, especially in the UK with regards to prison, fines and the number of breaches. Just to highlight at Skanska, the values for health and safety are very much care for life, having injury and free environments, so having zero hours of accidents, and also our policy is we work safely or not at all. So looking at the role of BIM within health and safety. So in the UK, we do have a PAS 1192 Part 6 standard, which is associated with BIM for health and safety. And that is to look at aiding the stakeholders when identifying risks during design. So using the BIM model for that. And just sort of showcasing the fact that you can use federated and coordinated models to allow for clash detection and reducing time on site. And that's to allow empowerment of not only people in design, but also in construction. Second aspect is very much about efficiency. So creating once, using multiple times, which I'm sure we've seen before, but specifically around for health and safety and the identifying risks, for example, in a visual way before hitting site. And it's also really useful for visual method statements. I know that in the past, engineers are now using BIM models to help contextualize their risk assessments and method statements. And then it's very much about BIM, essentially relates to collaboration, which relates to better CDM, which is better for health and safety. So I just mentioned CDM here. So I'll just give you a very high level overview of CDM. So CDM stands for Construction Design and Management Regulations, which were revised in 2015. They are derived from a EU directive to minimise health and safety standards, and they also have a minimum set of health and safety standards to adhere to. It's about the culture of carefully planning your projects, to reduce any risk to health and safety. It's for absolutely all construction sites, so temporary works as well as the mobile construction sites. And it's about all stakeholders, so it's to reduce the risk to those who have built or using, but also maintaining the structures. It's not just about the construction, it's beyond that within the asset lifecycle. And the requirement is to have CDM in place from early or concept design. So within the CDM regulations, so just to note that CDM is the interpretation of what we call in the UK is this EU directive. So we have duty holders or stakeholders, if you like. So everyone who's involved in a construction project has legal duties under CDM. So those figures that I showed you at the beginning were very much about the breaches associated with that, because people weren't adhering to their legal duties. So generally within construction, but also with the CDM, you've got the duty holders, you've got the client, you've got the designer, principal contractor, contractor and worker. So absolutely everyone. And I think it just to highlight how responsible everyone has a responsibility in it. So generally the theme here and the message across is that all these duty holders must have the relevant skills, knowledge, experience that's necessary to fulfill the role in a manner that secures the health and safety of any person affected by the project, also including the general public. So in terms of the CDM Risk Register, so this is what's associated to how you track the risks for health and safety. So generally there'll be a tracker and it has to list a description of the hazard and risk, the current risk impact that it has. So the RAG list is the red, amber, green. So you're sort of highlighting red is obviously very bad and green is it's sufficient basically. And then you need to get the design mitigation action. So what can be done to mitigate this risk? Who is the risk owner? So particularly for design, it's about during pre-construction, the design might be the risk owner, or it could go under the construction team, for example. So it's the different duty holders. And then any residual risks associated with the risk later on in the life cycle. So again, at a very high level, the challenge is currently within this CDM risk register, for example. So traditionally, it is a spreadsheet. So there's not much context, especially geospatially. And current solutions, there are some currently linking BIM models to the actual CDM risk register, but it's still a little bit clunky in terms of a two-way integration. So there's a bit of lack of data integrity between trying to implement this health and safety for BIM, particularly for CDM. We are able to, there lacks a geospatial or connection essentially. There's also lack of workflows. So there's a lot of workflows and hold points that need to go through because of the different duty holders involved. So there are some systems, so particularly if you are just using a spreadsheet, that's it's quite clunky with a workflow. So I know that there's some solutions out there that are trying to improve that and digitize the way and use platforms to produce workflows. And then fundamentally, with anything associated with BIM, it's a massive change program. There's not only the technical aspect, there's a massive cultural aspect that needs to be addressed, and essentially trying to tell people how this is adding value to them by using this solution. I'll now hand over to George, who will look about the future and the role of digital.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anita, for presenting this. And I would like to build on the challenges that you just described, and particularly on the lack of geospatial awareness for once, but also how by using digital tools, information and communication technologies such as GIS and BIM, we can sort of try and gap these cultural challenges that you have highlighted. So a quick overview of GIS and BIM. So on one hand, we have GIS. Essentially, GIS addresses the question of where, and it has to do with how we understand, interpret, model, and analyze a particular element in relation to its surroundings. It's great in capturing the conditions on the ground from a broader perspective and from a larger, let's say, geospatial perspective, and it enhances our geodesign. On the other hand, we have BIM, Building Information Modeling, which is great in capturing the engineering detail of the particular asset, of the asset that we are trying to build. And it goes on a level of detail that GIS is not capturing. And someone would think that, when these two worlds work together, they empower each other. And we are lately seeing lots of efforts in the industry world to try and bridge this gap. But at the moment, there are significant data challenges, data interoperability challenges, and cultural challenges that block this, or at least they require us to put some extra work on trying to bridge this gap. But once we are able, once we are in a position of doing so, then we are going from what we see in our screen right now to isolated to separate domains. we are going in a unified data structure. A unified data structure that is bringing in BIM and GIS as a core source of information. This GIS and BIM is being enhanced by surveying and by data acquisition techniques, and it forms a very, very strong background that can be enhanced with additional information. It can bring in logistics, it can bring utilities, environmental information, connect with live data sources and IoT, and in our particular case study, in what we are discussing today, brings in health and safety information. And this elevates the whole domain. Why? Not only because, firstly, because we're able to visualize this information in 3 dimensions, and that is massive compared to seeing health and safety risks that are associated with the terrain and the surroundings in a 2D plane view. And secondly, it is because we are able to bring in the surrounding information. We're able to bring in buildings. We're able to bring in the slope of the terrain that can actually help you determine the hazardness, let's say, of the risk that you're trying to register. Before we go to our proof of concept, a few words about GeoBIM. So GeoBIM, essentially, it is a concept. It's not a data type, and it's not a format or a software. And as a concept, it is format agnostic. It can be used by anyone and everyone. However, it is very much data-oriented. It needs to be based on good, high-quality, standardized information. But also, it is people-oriented because it's being driven greatly by people and the requirements. Anita mentioned before that it is all about empowering the end user. And to do that, we need to make sure that what we are creating for the end user is relevant to their requirements. And GeoBIM falls under the sphere of data integration. And what we have tried to do here in this proof of concept that I'm presenting right now is to take multiple different data sources. We have 3D models produced by BIM authoring tools. We have CAD information. We have architectural information. We have surveying. We have GIS data. And then they are all being, let's say, blended in a magic bucket, if you would like, which is the technical workflows that we are implementing in order to address the data interoperability challenges, in order to create a unified output. And we are taking this unified output and we visualize it on ArcGIS Online. And immediately this becomes accessible to thousands of users that before had limited or no access at all into different sources of information. So that's one of the biggest strengths of data integration. It connects the people by connecting the data. And now I would like to discuss the proof of concept. We are in the very early stages of developing this solution for our project. So at the moment, what we have done is we have been able to bring in GIS and BIM together at the technical level, and we have enhanced this with the visual representation of the CDM Risk that Anita was presenting before. That way, we are able to do 2 things. We are able to bring in the geospatial intelligence to the models, to the CDM Risk register, because once you put it into georeferenced system, the location is captured automatically and you can start making analysis. And we are also one step closer to implementing the workflows and ensuring these data integrity challenges that Anita mentioned again, which has to do about how we capture information and how we review information and how we exchange information among all the duty holders. And I hope that even from these images, we can understand how impactful is the visual representation in 3 dimensions of having a GIS world, the surrounding context, the 3D models, what we are trying to build, and all the risks that are associated on site. So this is a great tool, not only to visualize information, but also inform all the stakeholders, all of our people that are going to go on site as part of the health and safety briefing reviews, inform them in a visual way, in a way that is easily understood and let's say adopted about all the potential risks that exist on site. And of course, these models can be linked with a variety, are linked actually with relevant documentation that is stored on our non-graphical CD. So in terms of discussion and future work, to begin with, as I mentioned before, we have set up a strong foundation, a strong ecosystem. This is what GeoBIM is all about. We have GIS and BIM working hand by hand, empowering each other. And of course, survey is an integral part of the process because it brings all the data in. And then we have the duty holders, as described before by Anita. We have the client, we have the designer, the principal designer, the contractor, and the principal contractor. And they are all able to work and collaborate from a single source of truth. So eventually what we are trying to achieve, we try to optimize the way we geodesign. We want to work more efficiently, and we want to work more collaboratively, and we achieve that by connecting different data sources together. And of course, it's essential to implement GIS from the very early stages in order to leverage resilience in health and safety. So a few words looking forward, what we are looking to achieve. I think the field is vast of what we can do here. Once we combine GIS, BIM, and health and safety, we can start designing smart evacuation systems because we have the non-graphical information, the graphical information, the geospatial intelligence from GIS. And further down the line, building indoor navigation tools to help our colleagues navigate underground, or general site navigation tools. And of course, the ultimate goal is to further optimize GIS and BIM and utilize both to have an efficient health and safety handover to the client. So that would be all from us. We are very happy to engage in the Q&A. And if you want to reach out, please do in the following email addresses. Thank you very much.